A rare mid-decade redistricting is set to happen in the Lone Star State after President Donald Trump pushed lawmakers to carve out more Republican seats to give the GOP a better chance of keeping its slim majority in Congress.
All right, folks, this is a breaking news update to a video we discussed a couple of weeks ago. Donald Trump is so panicked about the outcome of the 2026 midterms. He is so confident that he and his party will lose on the merits that he is going through with a very risky scheme to effectively steal the midterms before they happen by pressuring Texas to take an extraordinary step to redraw its already heavily gerrymandered maps to more favor the Republican Party. Not only is this risky within Texas, but also there's reporting that Democratic states, including California, will retaliate by redistricting their own states to favor Democrats. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, this is further proof that between the One Big Beautiful Bill and its wild unpopularity, the recent Epstein Files fiasco, his terrible polling with respect to the economy, and basically every other major policy area, his mass deportation policies, which are draconian and cruel, Donald Trump is effectively shitting his pants, and he's following through on this risky scheme. I want to play a couple of other clips regarding reporting at what this may do and what Democrats might do in return, and we'll also look at some text, some reporting about this as well.
Now, last month, we told you the Trump administration is reportedly asking Texas state lawmakers to redraw congressional maps to help shore up Republican seats in the midterms. But now some Democrats in California are talking about doing the same if Texas actually goes through with it. Owen Dahlkamp, reporter for the Texas Tribune, is joining us live from D.C. to talk more about this. Owen, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So let's take a step back to that meeting that leaders within the Trump administration had with a group of congressional Texas lawmakers. What did they say?
Yeah, so in early June, a group of Texas lawmakers met inside the U.S. Capitol late at night after one vote to discuss a potential redistricting plan that members of the Trump's political team have brought forth to attempt to essentially get more Republican seats in Texas. Their goal is to spread out some of the Republican voters that are in these safe districts to ones that are in neighboring Democratic districts in order to attempt to flip some of those seats for their party. So far, it sounds like the Texas delegation isn't 100% happy with that plan.
Yeah.
So that's the rationale for it. Again, that this generated from the Trump administration trying to pressure these lawmakers to in turn pressure Texas officials to go ahead and redistrict in advance of the 2026 midterms to blunt probable, not certain, but probable losses. Now, this reporter from the Texas Tribune, which broke a lot of this story, was also asked about the Democratic potential retaliation.
Yeah, and now California is talking about doing a little tit for tat. What is going on there?
Yeah, four Democratic members of Congress have told me that there have been meetings between House Democrats, Democratic leadership, and people within Governor Gavin Newsom's orbit of California, and they have discussed potentially a tit-for-tat redistricting, essentially saying, if Texas decides to redistrict in favor of Republicans, we'll do the exact same thing, but we'll redistrict in favor of Democrats.
Ouch. Ouch. That could be very risky for all parties involved. But that was the reporting before Trump decided to go through with it. Well, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is ordering an emergency session of Congress, the Texas Congress, and yes, one of the items is redistricting, legislation that provides a revised congressional redistricting plan in light of constitutional concerns raised by the Justice Department. The Trump's Justice Department is alleging that 4 congressional districts in Texas, currently held by Democrats, are unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered. That's their predicate for it. And again, we talked about some of this weeks ago when it was just being discussed, okay? The New York Times broke the initial story saying White House pushes Texas to redistrict, hoping to blunt Democratic gains. A rare mid-decade redistricting push has unnerved some Texas Republicans who worry a drive to harm Democrats could end up endangering GOP incumbents in 2026. And again, the Texas Tribune talks about this tit for tat. House Democratic leadership, rank and file members, and representatives for at least one blue state governor have been meeting to decide how to retaliate if Texas Republicans follow through on the White House's push to reshape the state's congressional map, according to 4 Democratic members of Congress familiar with the discussions. In these talks, people in California Governor Gavin Newsom's orbit have signaled their boss's willingness to counter any redistricting in Texas with a similar move to redraw the maps in his own state in an attempt to offset potential GOP gains, according to the lawmakers who were granted anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. Quote, "This is news to us. Our office hasn't had any conversations about this," said Izzy Gardon, a spokesperson for Newsom. Quote, "We're always open to bold, creative ideas that hold the GOP accountable, even if the rumor didn't start with us." The Democratic meetings are a response to recent calls from Trump's political orbit for Republicans in Austin to draw new district lines that would shift GOP voters from safely red districts into neighboring blue ones in a bid to flip the seats and protect the GOP's slim House majority in 2026. The lawmakers said multiple blue state leaders, in addition to Newsom, were involved in similar talks, although it was not immediately clear which states beyond California were in the mix. Could it be Illinois, right? Could it be New York? Who knows, right? These dynamics, which have not been previously reported, could make the Trump team's already risky gambit more perilous. Any attempt to scoop up additional GOP seats in Texas would require spreading Republican voters across additional districts. The prospect has drawn opposition from much of Texas's GOP's congressional delegation over fears that mapmakers could overextend and endanger currently safe incumbents. One Republican member of Congress from Texas who is unhappy about the White House's redistricting plan told the Texas Tribune that a push from blue states could help the state's GOP delegation make the case for calling off the redistricting scheme. So in other words, this guy's thinking, man, I hope these blue states are threatening to retaliate, because if they do, it may prompt these other Republicans and Trump to back off because it's already risky for us. So it might intimidate them into stopping. Now, again, let's look into some of this reporting because I love some of the quotes here. Democrats see the fight as an essential offensive posture that could make the difference in reclaiming the House, where Republicans narrowly control 220 seats to the Democrats' 213. One of the Democratic members familiar with the deliberations says the party needs to, quote, fight fire with fire. Quote, "I'm not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back," another one of the Democratic lawmakers said. Quote, "We shouldn't be so nice if Texas decides to do this." Okay, and of course, ultimately, Texas did decide to go ahead and do this, as the Texas Tribune wrote yesterday. As Texas Republicans prepare for mid-decade redistricting, cautionary tales loom from the past. Spurred by Donald Trump's political team, Texas lawmakers will try to redraw the state's congressional map to boost Republicans, but some GOP incumbents are uneasy. As Texas Republicans prepare to redraw the state's congressional districts ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, cautionary tales loom from the past redistricting efforts that saw the state's rapid demographic change collide with far-reaching partisan gerrymandering. The move to carve out more GOP seats in Texas was unveiled Wednesday by Governor Greg Abbott, who included redistricting in a sweeping 18-item agenda for the legislature's incoming special session. The announcement ended weeks of speculation over whether Texas Republicans would follow through on demands from Donald Trump's political advisors, who've been pushing for the rare mid-decade redistricting gambit to improve the GOP's chances. Okay, again, this is exceptionally rare. This is a break glass in case of emergency stunt by the Trump team. Okay, which again, they're not prophets. They're not fortune tellers. They're not soothsayers. None of us are. It could be that they managed to keep one or both chambers of Congress during the 2026 midterm simply on the merits. It's not like Democrats don't have our problems, right? We are wildly unpopular, in many ways much more unpopular than Trump at the moment, right? Because Republicans hate us, independents are pissed off with us, and quite frankly, Democrats hate other Democrats as well. And yet, they're so nervous about this. Trump is so nervous about this. They're like, screw it. We know it's risky, but break this glass. We have to shore up these midterm seats even before the midterms happen. We don't want to have a contest on the merits and on the record. We want to, in advance, shape the terrain in our favor. We want to stack the terrain in our favor. That's what the Republicans are looking to do. Some Republicans, including members of Texas's congressional delegation, opposed the idea over concerns about jeopardizing their own seats if they miscalculate with the new districts. A recent case unfolded after the 2010 U.S. Census, when Republicans who controlled the Texas legislature looked to maximize their party seats across the map by drawing reliable GOP voters into nearby Democratic districts and turning them red. But in 2018, a Trump midterm election year, that aggressive approach came back to bite them, with a favorable national climate and explosive population growth driven almost entirely by people of color. Texas Democrats picked up 12 seats in the state House, ousted 2 longtime GOP members of Congress, and narrowed their losing margins in statewide races. Quote, what looked like a solid gerrymander by the end of the decade had become almost a dummy mander, said Michael Lee, a redistricting expert at the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University. Quote, the lesson from 2010 is that you can stretch yourself too thin, you can be too smart for your own good, and when the politics change, you get bitten in the you-know-where, So that's what's going on here, folks. And I'll point out Isaiah Martin, who is a political candidate, I believe, in Texas, and an activist online. Man, he's rolling up his sleeves and getting pretty ruthless too, and I like it. He says, at Gavin Newsom, gerrymander Republicans out of existence in California. You have the numbers to put Trump and Abbott in their place. It's time to teach these guys a painful lesson about redistricting. And he called on Governor Kathy Hochul of New York to do the same. So listen, a couple of things. If they go through with this and the maps aren't struck down by the right-wing Texas Supreme Court or anything else, could this help blunt potential GOP losses in the upcoming midterms? Yes, it could. Could they be successfully challenged and struck down? Possibly. If these happen, will blue states retaliate? I would argue, just as natural disposition, it is not in the Democrats' nature, unfortunately, to fight fire with fire and to go tit for tat. They tend to fold more quickly than Republicans do. Governor Hochul, for example, I don't think she, constitutionally, like in terms of her own constitution, I don't think she's willing to do this. And moreover, I think previous attempts to redraw New York's congressional maps were struck down by New York's own state Supreme Court. So liberal courts are less likely to indulge partisan gerrymandering. They do it, but not nearly to the same extent and reliability as conservative courts in other states. For example, Wisconsin, a swing state that has a liberal court majority, they declined to take a case challenging some of the gerrymander going on in Wisconsin. So a conservative court would absolutely not have declined to take that, right? They would have been like, hell yeah, let's take this chance to redraw the maps in our political party's favor. The liberal court chose not to do that in Wisconsin. So it's entirely possible that the Democrats will just simply do what Democrats are inclined to do, which is we'll wag our finger and we'll bitch and moan about Texas and red states gerrymandering, but we don't really want to sink to their level. Like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. But Gavin Newsom, he might be different. Gavin Newsom has surprised me with his increasing and consistently increasing ruthlessness rhetorically and his willingness to roll up his sleeves and play hardball with the Republicans, at least rhetorically. And so I am encouraged and I am hopeful that if Texas does what it is apparently prepared to do, I mean, they're calling the special session, that Governor Newsom and other blue states will at least posture that they will retaliate, because gerrymandering is unfortunate, but unfortunately it's like universal disarmament, right? Or unilateral disarmament, I should say. If the Republicans are going to gerrymander, and they do far more often and far more egregiously than the Democrats, not the Democrats don't do it, Republicans are much worse, then Democrats have to be willing to at least persuade the Republicans that they are willing to do the same, right? And to hopefully disincentivize and deter them from doing so. So we'll see what happens. But the bottom line is Donald Trump is panicked because this is a break glass in case of emergency situation, and he's going for broke. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.